Hey y'all, my name's Colin Campbell Boussier, and I want to talk to you about my favorite evidence-based instructional strategies, which is peer tutoring. Peer tutoring took over my classroom this year in a really beautiful way, and so I'm excited to share it with you. Um, First off, their peer tutoring in terms of what we have evidence for. There's a whole bunch of different models which have been proven uh, to be really effective ways of um, intervening and educating kids. So um, I think it's worth noting that they're all more or less the same. They have some system for partnering kids together, some system for training both the person tutoring and the person being tutored. And those studies, most of those studies just have kids working one-on-one together, right? Not larger groups, but smaller groups. Um, I think the other piece that's important to note here, looking at all those studies collectively, is that the most effective programs don't pair kids together that are on the same level, right? The most effective programs intentionally partner kids where one student really has strong mastery and another student is struggling with the material. And the interesting thing is you don't have one kid being left behind, getting stuck at the same level because they already know the stuff, and the other kid work is getting lifted up. They actually both get lifted up, and I'll talk to you about that in just a second because it relates to this, right? So, why would teachers use this strategy? Well, it's effective, right? Like I was saying before, it benefits both kids, right? So, I'm a math teacher, so think in that context, right? You have a student who really understands how to solve two-step algebra problems, and then you got a student that's really struggling with that, right? If the student who has mastery now has to go through and do error analysis and try to figure out what the other person's done wrong, they don't that we're asking them to now do more than just use an algorithm, right? Follow a process to solve the equation. Now we're asking them to figure out how to explain in their own words how to solve a problem, right? We are now asking that kid who's more advanced to do even harder stuff than we're asking the general class, right? And so we're lifting both parties up, right? Also, it's easy to implement, right? As a teacher, this matters, right? As much as I love an intervention, if it's going to keep me up till midnight every night, it's not going to be the best thing for kids because I'm going to be a terrible person. No, seriously, but being easy to implement, I'll go over specifically how I roll this out, how I track it, how I do it in a second. But it's really easy to implement in your class. It also addresses several behaviors, right? So if you have kids with ADHD who are struggling to appropriately manage their energy while seated, this gives them an opportunity to actually get out of their seat and move around, but to do it in ways that's socially appropriate and acceptable within the class, right? If you have kids with attention-seeking behaviors, this gives them a way to seek attention again in ways that are socially appropriate, right? So I'm blanking. There's more though too, but yeah. Anyway, so it helps address several different behaviors at the same time. It also builds self-esteem, right, and self-confidence, right? I had numerous students this year who started off the year straight up saying, "Oh, I can't do math. I don't know how to do math. Math's not for me." Da da da. And by the end, they were very close to the same level as their peers, and actually ended up on some lessons, uh, leading the conversation about how to solve the type of problems we were doing that day. And it fosters self-directed learning, right? Um, the ideal is to move away from direct instruction, to move towards the teacher being a facilitator within the classroom instead. peer tutoring is a phenomenal way of modeling and teaching those sub skills for self-directed learning that kids need to know so that they actually can be more self-directed in their learning. So when would teachers use this strategy? Well, I literally use it every day. You don't have to though, right? So you can look at your assessments of prior learning, and based on those assessments, you can strategically use this, right? Whether that's strategically targeting certain students or strategically targeting a specific skill to reteach. For the studies that I looked at, the primary use for peer tutoring was used in the lesson following the instructional portion of the lesson, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like you can use it for preloading knowledge, right? You can use it as part of your opening in the lesson, or you can use it if you have like a discovery-based learning structure, right? You can use peer tutoring as a way of facilitating conversation and to really empower your lower level students to really engage with the material and be able to actively participate in the discovery of the new content for that day. And like I said previously, right, this is something that you can do with the whole class, or you can strategically do with specific groups of people. I don't do it with my whole class, even though I do it every day. I have a system for kids to be able to earn their way onto what I call the math team, so that they can tutor, and then I'm able to. So I'm strategically selecting kids, and then I'm also strategically partnering them as well. So some people are participating, while other people are working independently, or other people are choosing to partner in a different way outside of this peer tutoring context. So here's how I use peer tutoring. So these are the actual slides that I show kids when I initially roll this out, and as I'm reiterating expectations, etc. I call it math teams. Here's some photos. Okay. So first question I tell my kids, you should ask, all right, how do I qualify to make math teams? This is what you do. You need to get 100 on your classwork and your exit ticket for the previous week, right? So firstly, I'm looking for, who got all their work done, but also who showed mastery there of the content we were doing of the previous week, right? That's an easy thing for me to track. And then in a second, I'll show you the slide that I show kids at the beginning of class that shows who's eligible. And then once you're eligible, right, then I want to see, can you successfully complete the exit ticket at the beginning of class, right? So when everybody else is doing their do now, kids who are eligible based on their classwork and exit ticket from the previous week, they get to do the exit ticket right there at the beginning of class. And if they can show mastery at the beginning of class, then they have made the team for that day. How do you get your grade? So if you end up being on the math team, I'll pick a student that you spent most of class with, and I'll write that on my clipboard, right? If the student you're working with attempts all the problems that day, right, classwork, exit ticket, etc., you get 100, right? So the person, the kids who are showing mastery, right, they don't need to do all of this like written practice and solve a whole bunch of problems. They've already showed that they know how to solve that type of problem, right? What they need to work on is those higher level skills, right? The error analysis, the putting putting it in your own words, right? And so the way they get their grade is, does the person, right? Does the person they're working with get it done? And then I think this is really good. If the student you're working with gets their exit ticket right on their own, you both get bonus points, right? This is a really important part, is that both kids need to really see that they're both getting something extra from this pairing, right? And there's like the ethereal, like, oh, you're both learning, but anyway, token economy. So I just give them a little bonus on their grade for that week. What else? Yeah, again, extrinsic motivation. So for the kids who showed mastery, they've already done their exit ticket. So when everybody else is doing their exit ticket, I give them a tech pass. I let them go on their phones for that last 5 minutes. And at the end of the RP, the report period rather, I just throw a little party for those kids who helped me out a lot. All right. So what's it actually look like, right? So when kids come into class, they see a slide that looks like this. I teach on A days and B days, right? So anyway, on A2, Sanaya, Alicia, and Jalen, they were all eligible from the previous week, right? So that means they got 100 on their exit ticket and their in their classwork the previous week, right? So this doesn't mean that they're on the math team. This doesn't mean that they get to help help tutor in class today, right? This means that they're eligible to, right? So they see their name up there. Everybody else is working on their do now. They flip to their exit ticket and they try to show that they already have mastery of what we're doing today, right? It's impressive, right? Like this also, you talk about higher level skills. Like this may be a skill that they haven't actually done, but it's something we've been working towards, right? And often, like, I'll have kids who they're working on a skill that they've never done before, but they're able to actually figure it out on their own in that first 5-10 minutes of class. It's amazing. It's good, and I'm glad that this gives a system to reward them for that. And the other slide I like to show, I try to do this every Sunday night. I make a slide up that shows all the people who got bonus points the previous week, right? So this is both the person tutoring and the person being tutored. So this is a celebration of all those folks throughout the previous week, right? If we go back to the previous slide, right? Like, maybe Sanaya is on the math team every day of the week, but maybe Jalen's only actually makes the math team one day, but Jalen's still eligible, right? He can still get celebrated because he got bonus points for that one day. So anyway, peer tutoring's amazing. The main resource I used was an article in Effective Mathematics Instruction, which is published in Evidence for Education, which is a really good resource. I got the URL there. I will also post this. But they listed some great resources within that article, and I've put them here along with live URLs as well. So I hope that this is helpful. If you need anything, reach out. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful. All right, thank you all.